Welcome to Compas on the Beat. I'm Fernando Ramirez here at Radio Row with Hayley Elwood, Chargers reporter for the Chargers. Hayley, thank you so much for joining Compas. We had you last year. You know what? Winner again, first guest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's going to be a recurring thing, right?
Yeah.
Every
Oh,
year.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Next year it's in Vegas.
I know.
The year Nowlands
Yeah, I
after
know.
that. So
And then we re-rack and figure it out. But there's going to be some fun stuff coming up here, right?
Exactly. Hayley, the reason why we love having you on is because I feel like I love listening to your opinion of what you see, what you thought about the season. Obviously, we kind of did a wrap up last year. Love to do another wrap up with you this year. Okay, so I'm of the opinion, and I told Gilbert this. I thought Justin Herbert showed a lot of maturity this year, losing Mike at one point and Keenan. A lot of quarterbacks don't have to go through that, and when they do, they kind of struggle. He took his licks, he took his bruises. What did you see from Justin in the the whole season, but then in that point where he had those 4 or 5 games where he was missing Keenan and Mike?
Well, and he also was going through his own stuff,
there
right?
There you go. See, that's why I need Hayley here. Yeah, exactly.
I think everyone looks at the season he had, and of course, when you statistically compare it to the other seasons, it's not there numbers-wise, but there's a tremendous amount of adversity. And I think it's a reminder that not every year is going to be like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This new Chargers era of Justin Herbert, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert is so much to me like Favre, Rodgers, the Niners dynasty that they had, probably what would have been with the Colts if Andrew Luck hadn't retired. So Chargers fans are so lucky that Justin Herbert is the quarterback. And
the Jets are still looking for somebody since Joe Namath to be their franchise quarterback.
That's the ultimate. That's what sets you apart in this league. Do you have a quarterback? Yes, great. You don't, you are going to struggle.
Yeah.
And so I think when you look at this entire Charger season as a whole, I bring up his rib cartilage injury that he suffered against the Chiefs because I think we forget that. Oh, and then, by the way, he has a left shoulder situation that he had to get surgery for this offseason. So he was going through his own stuff just as much as the team was facing attrition too. And so I think it was a huge growing experience for him and learning experience for him because you had to adapt on the fly. Guys like DeAndre Carter, who was not expected to have the role that he had, played a huge role in this offense during that stretch. And you saw truly, though, dating back to training camp, what that rapport was like. And so I think for him, and I don't want to obviously speak for him necessarily, but I think, yes, your whole point about growing and maturing, I think this was a huge year for that and a huge year for growth. And as much as we wanted, and we said in the offseason, oh my gosh, well, if he did all these things in year 2, what's it going to be like in year 3 with comfortability? Well, shoot, all this adversity struck, but that's okay because they were able to figure it out. They made the playoffs.
Yeah.
They did things that I don't think anyone would have expected them to do given all the attrition that they faced. And so there is a lot of good that still happened despite maybe how the season ended and what happened, but being able to navigate through it, I'm telling you, you don't get to that record. You don't make the playoffs if Justin Herbert isn't there at your quarterback, because if you don't have that guy and you face all that other attrition, you're not looking at the postseason.
Yeah. No, and give me a ding, somebody, because Hayley Elwood said, shoot. That's a throwback to Phillip Rivers in every press conference. You'd count them. You'd count all the shoots that were out there.
I've been here for this is what season 10
yeah, exactly. So you've heard a lot of those. But Hayley, then obviously transitioning to the team as a whole, it feels like they took this step in the necessary, especially the last few weeks of the season. Felt like the defense kind of got a little bit under control. Kyle Van Noy, 5 sacks in the last 5 games. Khalil Mack didn't have to get double teamed the way he kind of was. It just felt like the team kind of hit their niche. And then obviously you hit that game against Jacksonville and it looked good for the first half. Second half, obviously it all unravels. But just overall, what did you think about the season that the team had as a whole?
I'm going to go back to week 8, which I think was the bye week. Whenever the Chargers bye was, they had won a few in a row, then they lost to Seattle, and I think then the bye happened. Yep. So I had asked Brandon Staley at that point, I was like, what is the identity of this team? Because I was very curious. I think a lot of people were, and he told me we're a work in progress. And I think when you hit that pseudo midseason point, that's not necessarily what you would want to hear, but it made a lot of sense. Because when you look at how many new guys, when you reference the defense, they added this past year, they didn't play in the preseason. and they were figuring it out as they went. Towards the end of the season, I think one of the reasons they became so much better was because, and Staley referenced this, the comfortability that they all gained by playing in that defense. It's not an easy system, as we have heard. I don't play it, so I'm not going to like say that necessarily. But from what we have heard, it is not easy necessarily to just pick up. Someone like Michael Davis came on really, really strong towards the end of the year once J.C. Jackson went out and he had to play that role. He also went out in that Jacksonville game, and that trajectory changed a lot in that second half. And I think, again, maybe it takes some guys a little longer to sort of master it, but they did. Then you talk about the Kyles, the Morgan Foxes, the Sebastians, those guys who had prior experience, veteran experience, many, many years in this league. But for Kyle, Brandon Staley said, this is really the first time he's been in a very, very different system than what he's known, even though he hopped to a couple different teams prior. But for him, it was, I think, again, mastering sort of it all kind of coming together at that point. And they did kind of get hot at the right time. That's what you wanted to see. Unfortunately, what happened in Jacksonville happened, but look, you can't look back. You just got to move forward. But I do think that there is something to be said about just the fact that they were able to sort of get past that work in progress and become more of a holistic unit.
Why should fans be excited about the arrival of Kellen Moore?
So I talked to him last week. The interview actually just dropped on Chargers.com and YouTube.
Go check that out.
Little tease here.
There you go.
I think they should be excited because he told me this is Justin Herbert's show. And I think that's what Chargers fans want to hear. And when you have someone as special as Justin Herbert at quarterback, obviously you want to build around that. And I had asked him, look, this guy has had 3 different offensive essential staffs, like OC quarterbacks coach, 3 different offensive systems in 4 seasons. So how do you balance what you want to do with what he already knows and has done? Because he's had a lot of change.
Yeah.
And Kellen told me it's a combination of a lot of things. He said, first off, I've been there. He's a former quarterback. He's played. I know what it's like to go through these changes. And I think that's great for someone like Justin to lean on. But another part, he said, we're going to do a couple things. We're going to look at what Justin and this entire offense has done really well, because he goes, we don't want to change those things. There is some good that's already here. We're going to take some things that I've done in Dallas and we're going to kind of combine it all together and really work it how we see fit. But then he said, this is Justin Herbert's show. And so when you look at that, like I said, I think that's music to a lot of Chargers fans' ears, that you're going to really, really, and I know that obviously we're in the off season and interviews and press conferences are great, but I think he's a seasoned guy who's called plays before. He knows what that's like. He coaches from the sideline, which I think is a great thing for that offense to have. So when the play comes off, Lombardi was in the booth, Shane Day was on the field, and Shane Day was a lot of that sort of immediate reaction kind of coach, after drives and all of that. But I think just having Kellen down there, assuming he stays down there, will be great. But I just think being able to bring that experience is huge, and really just the play calling experience too, and what he did with Dallas, and now getting a little more freedom out here. He already knows Justin. They did some commercials
Those
together.
Were funny. Those were hilarious.
Now learned. I told him, I'm like, you study film for games, right? I was like, before this interview, I am studying Kendall Auto commercials that I never anticipated. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about there, and we'll just kind of, obviously everything's great in the offseason, but we'll see what happens.
Let's transition now to Hayley Elwood. We start do you ever sit there and I don't know, because I did this the other day. I'm looking through my Instagram and I'm like, I've been doing this now for 10 years. Like, I've been around this team for 10 years. Then I look at some of the pictures. I'm like, I met that person. I saw that. I'm like, oh my. And sometimes I feel like I don't want to take that. And I told myself, you know what? I need to start enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
Are you look at what you're doing. Like, you're here at the Super Bowl. You're doing a lot of these events. You get to talk to some really cool people. You got to do a lot of really cool stuff. Do you kind of try and take that in, or do you ever just look at your stuff and you're like, oh, wow, I'm doing all this. That's awesome.
So it's funny. So right before this interview, I popped over. Laura Oakman from Fox Sports has a program called Galvanize that I've never technically been a part of, but I had connected with her. She does boot camps for women in sports broadcasting. That's awesome. Kind of teaching them. And now it's expanded to women behind the scenes, women who want to do maybe the legal management side of things.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, she did a boot camp at the Chargers when we were in San Diego, and I remember seeing her walk around like a gaggle of girls and being like, that's cool. Like, who is this? And I emailed her, and I never thought she would write me back. Long story short, she's amazing, and she's doing essentially here at Radio Row, she has a little pop-up and they're doing interviews. And so I was just interviewed before I hopped on with you. And it was a lot of that. And I felt like, shoot, I'm 34 and I'm like, God, I feel old talking about this when you hear like, oh, you've been doing this for over a decade. And it's true. But I think, yes, those experiences, they mean a little bit more. And when you look, when you mention things like, I never thought I would be doing Super Bowl stuff at all. It happened so randomly that I never anticipated even this being in part of my career arc. But it is, and I'm super appreciative. And I think as you get older, you just learn to appreciate it a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And what's been one of your biggest, like, I mean, if somebody comes up to you and asks you, Hayley, what's the biggest advice you can give me about working in sports or the career in sports, the career path that you've chosen? What would you, because yours is different. Like, and we spoke about it last year. You were a dancer.
Yeah.
You ended up doing media stuff. So, and that's the crazy part. Everybody has a different story, a different pathway. I feel like that's why you and MJ Acosta really connected really well, because she's a former cheerleader turned into media personality as well. So what would be your piece of advice?
It sounds so stupid, and I preface it with that. Be a nice person. This industry, and you know this too, so small. So like take MJ for an example. She was working for a local station in San Diego when you and I were both there covering the Chargers, and then makes it, if we want to use that phrase, to NFL Network, and is now a superstar on Total Access every week. And she's a great resource and someone I still stay connected with. People behind the scenes, you never know who you might meet one day, who you're going to work with again. I mean, that's how this whole Super Bowl thing came about for me. And I forget about this last year, but I won a London game for the Chargers in 2018. The NFL and Van Wagner produce all the in-game content, which I was a part of. So I worked with people I never thought I'd see again in my life, because I'm thousands of miles away from home.
Exactly.
And then I get an email that following January asking if I wanted to work the Super Bowl. And so being nice takes you so far. But I also think, I like to think I am a nice person.
No, you are. See, that's why the Chargers need you, because you're the official, like when you first get into the media room, you're the first person that people would see, and it's like, oh, okay, wow, she's nice.
Committee.
Exactly. You're like the nicest person there. So obviously,
look,
it's awesome.
You need to prepare. Obviously, you need to know your stuff, because you're not going to last long if you don't. But you really, really, really won't last long if you suck as a person. And I think that's a huge thing. Yeah. A nicer way of saying you'll be an a-hole.
I love that.
Family show.
Yeah, it's family show. Exactly. Two final questions for you, Hayley. I know you're a busy woman, and I know we appreciate you sitting down with us. The Chargers, most of their opponents this year that they go to have a chance to go to Europe this season. Mm-hmm. Will the Chargers go to Europe this season? And where do you feel, which do they go to Germany or do they go to London?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I preface this by saying I have zero knowledge.
Yeah, no. We're just saying it's a dartboard. You're throwing it. Where are you throwing it at?
I would love to. I think Germany would be awesome. So I don't think so. It's the Chiefs go to Germany and who, the Patriots?
I think so.
I would doubt they would put a Chargers Chiefs game in Germany. No. Because there's just way too much.
Well, they did a Chiefs Chargers in Mexico City. That was actually a fun. Phillip threw 4 picks, I remember, but it was like the Chargers at the end had a chance at it.
They did, but it's more of like a sexy rivalry now. I think. I mean, hello, it was the Amazon debut.
Exactly.
Thursday Night Football and Prime Video game. So I think maybe the Patriots game has a shot. I think that was really fun. A lot of the people who I work with on the Super Bowl team work those international games. Okay. And my question to them was, how was Germany? Because I just think it's so cool that they did something different. And now 2 games there, I think is going to be awesome. And so I'm not saying it's my pick necessarily, but it's more like my dream pick. Like the kind of fun thing.
So I went, when I graduated from college, parents hooked it up with a trip to go out there, and it was like the most amazing thing ever. That's and I'm like, cool. Dude, can you imagine the NFL out there? Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. Last year. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of beer. Last year, we found out that you're Gilbert. Avocados, no thank you. You California burritos, no guacamole. So we understand that. We just found out something new about you. Obviously, Dan and Dago, my brother, offered you peanut butter pretzels or chocolate covered raisins, and you look at them and you just had this look of disgust. What's up?
First off, he's so nice, and I thank him, and it has nothing to do with him at all. And I was like, I'd love to talk about this.
Yeah.
I don't like raisins.
Wow.
Now, here's what's funny. People think I like raisins.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know what screams like, you like raisins on people's, because I don't know. I was like eating trail mix one time, and like a friend gave me a raisins. I'm like, I don't want these.
Yeah.
Oatmeal raisin cookies suck. Get the raisins out of there. Just give me an oatmeal cookie. It's a texture. I don't know. I don't like the flavor. Love a dried cranberry.
Wow.
If these were like chocolate covered cranberries, I would probably take the container.
You know what's crazy? In Mexico, they sell the cranberries, but like tahini in them.
Oh,
so it's like it's a. I'm gonna bring you a bag.
Ooh, so they're like spicy.
So they're spicy, very good.
I
It's
like
delicious.
That. I'd be into that.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know. Raisins don't do it for me. Like,
There you go.
I love bread pudding.
Oh wow.
Raisins ruin everything. Get the raisins out of bread pudding.
There you
I
go.
don't want it. Sorry, guys. But at least this one doesn't. This isn't like offensive to the region that I grew up in. Like
Exactly.
avocados.
Exactly. No, but Gilbert doesn't like them either. So there you go.
I know,
So
he's my buddy in
yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly. But Hayley, we appreciate you so much for jumping on Compas on the Beat again. First guest at Radio World. We had to have you on. We love listening to what you have to say. I mean, obviously, all Charger fans follow you, but just so if new fans out there don't know your social media, please let them know where they can follow you.
Twitter, Instagram, it's the same thing. It is at Hayley, which is spelled Hayley, which you have to
you have to. Yep.
There are 7 ways to Sunday to spell my name. So at Hayley Elwood, HayleyElwood.
Appreciate you jumping on. Thank you so much, Hayley.
Thank you. Appreciate it.